Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senapataratna. Grab your favorite drink, get yourself a snack, and we will get started. Today, I have my tried and true Lady Grey tea with cream and sugar, of course. And I have some cheese slices. Seems a little weird, but I had some kind of weird thought that it would be fun to have a bunch of cheese slices like you did when you were a kid in the cafeteria. You know, those cheese slices that are like the fakest cheese ever? Here we are. Well, let's get real. So I have been married for 28 years, and that means absolutely nothing other than I found something out just a few weeks ago that kind of blew my mind. Now, it probably is not going to be that mind-blowing to you. You're going to be like, of course, Jenny, that makes complete sense. But probably like a year ago, I had some stuff done on my teeth, and my teeth hurt so bad. I just could not even, I've never actually had like a cavity filled and then my teeth were super sensitive. Like that's actually never happened to me before, which seems very bizarre. Doesn't really matter, except that my mom was like, you need to get sensitive toothpaste. And I was like, no, I buy the cheap toothpaste. I don't buy fancy stuff. And she was like, no, trust me, it's going to make a difference. So I bought sensitive toothpaste, and I bought some travel stuff because you can get that at the Dollar Tree for $1.25, and I bought some regular stuff, and it really did change everything. I have to be honest with you. I was like, wow, this is actually really helped my teeth. So if your teeth are hurting, hey, there we go. This is what you've listening to this podcast for. Anyway, but the thing I did not do is switch my husband's toothpaste because he is still on the cheap toothpaste. I was like, we both don't need this. You just finish up what we have. And what I learned from this situation is that I have spent 20 some years thinking that my husband was the problem in the toothpaste area. Like the toothpaste is not crimped the right way for me. It is a mess on the top. It is just this complete and utter, like, what is happening with the toothpaste? And what I discovered, because now I use only my toothpaste and Kevin does not use it, is it's not Kevin. It's me. I am the one that is like the messy toothpaste person. Every once in a while, I've been thinking about this podcast for actually a few months because I was like, my toothpaste was like crimped wrong and it looked like a mess and the top was all covered. And I was like, what is happening? This is my own fault. Now, this seems a little bizarre. I 100% understand, but for me, this is really seeped because it's been a couple months. It has really seeped into my thought process because there is so often in my life that I have seen a problem and gone, well, that's not my fault. That must be so-and-so. That must be this person or that person. Even in the car, I tend to be like, why are you in my blind spot? You know, like it's somehow their fault that they're driving at the speed they're driving and I'm driving at the speed I'm driving and they happen to be in my blind spot. Like that's somehow their fault and not my fault for not checking my blind spot. Now, obviously, you're a better person than I am, and I get that. But I have spent a lot of my life kind of not growing out of what you do as a kid. You blame your sister, you blame your brother, you blame the dog, right? Like it is just kind of the thing that you do. When you have siblings, you blame everyone around you. Maybe if you don't have siblings, you don't do that. I don't know. I should have asked my only child if that was what happens with her, but I didn't. So I find that there is always blame to be taken and always blame to be given in every situation. You know, when you walk through something really hard and there's a fight or there's a disagreement, both sides are not right. Like it is never a 100% on the other person or on yourself. And that is something that I think we really have to understand is you have to take ownership of your part of whatever is happening, good or bad. And I kind of tend to take ownership of all the bad, but none of the good too. So you really have to take ownership of the good and the bad and what's happening in your life. We can walk through life and just forget that it's not everyone else's fault that we're at where we are. So let's think about Jacob and Esau. Now, they are some of my favorite male characters in the Bible because it is such a unique story when they are young adults or they're kind of just starting off in life. I don't know how old they were, but that's not really important to the story. Where Jacob really deceives Esau into giving away his birthright in a couple different ways. And it really causes a divide between the two of them. And Esau wants to kill Jacob. Like, not good. But there is a point when you're looking at this story, and I've heard the sermons both ways, because the problem is life really is not 100% someone's fault, good or bad. But you look at Jacob and Esau, and yes, Jacob deceived him. Jacob manipulated things. Jacob used his mother. Like, you can go back into Genesis and read the story. But, like, Jacob did a lot of, like, underhanded things. Esau also sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. Like, he made that decision. I don't know that I've ever been that hungry, and Lord, may I never have to realize to be that hungry that I was willing to give up my future for a bowl of soup. But I cannot imagine that there's not some like, oh, that was kind of a boneheaded thing to do. Maybe I should not have given away my birthright to my brother for a bowl of soup. So there's blame on both sides. When you I mean, I can't imagine. I really cannot imagine being that hungry. Maybe you've been that hungry, and I'm really sorry that you've been there. But he was deceived and he was tricked. And so that was partially Jacob's fault and partially Esau's fault. You know, I do not know Cain and Abel personally. There's not a lot that happens about Cain. I mean, they talk about Cain and Abel. They are Adam and Eve's sons, and there is a murder that happens between the two of them, and it's like a whole thing, your heart before God, and jealousy, and all this kind of stuff. And I've heard, oh, one was as perfect, and the other one, But it's brothers. Like, let's be real. There's taunting going on. That there's words that cannot be unsaid. That even the one that was amazing and right before God, they still were really a problem. I believe it's Abel, and Cain was the murderer. Anyway, and if I'm wrong, I'm really sorry, because I didn't look it up before I got here. So apologize, but I'm pretty sure Abel was the one that was righteous before God, and Cain was jealous and murdered him. But that there was more than that happening. So it's not 100% blame. But in our society, we have to all or nothing, right? Like, there really isn't 10% of this was really my fault. Like, I wasn't really perfect in this situation. Even when I got laid off from my job, like, was I to blame? I really don't think I was, but I also maybe had an attitude one day, or, was I perfect? No, I was not perfect. I was, I'm a human being. You make mistakes. You do things that are not, exactly the right way. Was it all my fault? No, I'm not going to take all the blame. Absolutely not, because I know that it wasn't 100% my fault. But I will take what I did wrong and be accountable for that. And this is not something that we have in our society, and really not something that we have in our churches. And I think that needs to change. because we so often are pretending to be something that we're not and blaming other people, even in our own minds. Maybe you're not out with your girlfriends and you're like, this is so their fault. Maybe you're not doing that, but in your own head, you've kind of decided that you are righteous and you are the one completely in the right. And humility and honesty before yourself and God are what bring you to a better place in life. And that is really what it's about. It's about being honest with yourself and honest with God. I don't need you to go out there and be like, okay, so this financial situation is 100% my fault, or you don't need to go out there and make confessions to other people. That's not what I'm talking about. But you need to be truthful with yourself and truthful with God, and go before the Lord and before yourself. Which honestly, I'd rather be honest with God than with myself. But when I'm honest with God, I have to be honest with it's a whole thing. It all intertwines with yourself. It's crazy. My husband wrote this book called Spiritual Warfare for Normal Christians, and he's got a chapter in there about the belt of truth. And it's really about being honest with yourself and honest with God. And he has spoken on it in the year 2025. Because he's on a book tour. So almost every week I'm kind of hearing about it. And I have to be honest with you, it is seeping into my spirit like you would not believe. Because I'm I need to be honest with the Lord about what I'm doing. And even past things and bringing them up and going, okay, I completely, I've had some friendships that have not ended well because I'm not a perfect person. And I have wanted to blame them 100%. I've wanted to be well, they didn't listen and, they were rude and, all these things. Not realizing that, first of all, my maturity when I was their friend is completely different, hopefully, now than it was 20 years ago. I would make different choices now than I maybe did then. And I made mistakes. That is just part of being in relationships, is you make mistakes. You're not the perfect one. You maybe aren't, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not going to make that assumption. But I've had to go back and forgive myself for things and forgive other people for things that I blame them for that really was not completely 100% their faults. And I know that there are times in your life where you're the victim, and I am not talking about those instances. I'm talking about sometimes when people cut you off when you're driving, it might be because you're driving too slow. I mean, it could be. It could just be because you're driving slow. It could be something, there is some blame on your end, and that's okay. Blame is not something that you have to hold on to. When you do, it turns into shame. And that's not the goal here. The goal is not to pick up shame and start carrying it around. Shame is not something that God has intended for us to have. It is about taking it before the Lord and saying, hey, you know what? I think I messed up. How can I do this different next time? What can I change in my life? How can I mature? How can I get more wisdom? How can I get more of the Lord in my life so I can really learn how to be a better friend, be a better wife, be a better mom, be a better daughter, be a better worker, be a better boss, be a better financial person, be a better church worker, or a better leader. How can I do this better, Lord? Because I messed up. I look at our church when we were in our 20s and wow, I wish that we kind of had a church now, because I know that we would do it differently, because we have more maturity and we have more knowledge of who the Lord is in our own lives and what he's done. And there's so much to that we didn't have at that point. Not that I don't think we did our best, but we made mistakes, and it's okay that we made mistakes, and it's okay to own up to those. So this week, as you're kind of walking through life, I just ask you to maybe think about honestly things, bringing it before yourself and before the Lord, and just being Lord, I want to grow and learn. I know that growing and learning isn't always a fun thing, but for me, every time I take off that toothpaste cap and I go, this is my fault. And it's no longer, I can't blame Kevin because it's only my toothpaste. Honestly, every time I open up that toothpaste, I go, Lord, may I not be a person that blames other people, but I take responsibility and I grow and I learn from the things that I've done wrong. And that I'm honest with myself and honest with you so I can be a better person just in general. Well, that's all I have for you this week. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Real Life with Jenny. You can support this podcast by going to buymeacoffee.com/Real Life with Jenny. Thank you so much for those of you that have supported that. It is just a blast. I'm just having so much fun with it. And you can find me at christconnection.cc/Jen E. I think it's Jenny now. JENNIE. I think they changed that on me. I'm not sure. Well, this week I just pray that, first of all, there's not a lot to blame, but that as you're walking through life, you realize that shame isn't something you're supposed to carry. Blame isn't something that you're supposed to dictate and shell out to other people. It's really about bringing those situations to the Lord and saying, Lord, I need your help in every situation, whether it's my fault or someone else's. Have a great week.